So I was gonna ask you about what are the benefits of live read aloud, because I noticed that in teaching they kind of discourage it after third grade. Maybe I don't see. I was probably the at least the only one that I know doing read alouds for my fourth and fifth graders. I've had my teacher trainers just straight up say we don't have time for that.
Yeah, I mean, I have to confess, before I discovered all of this that I'm talking about, I remember being brought into a middle school classroom, and the teacher was reading aloud to the kids from the autobiography of Malcolm X, and I think they were
Wow.
following along in the book. And you
What
could have
grade
heard
was this, by the
of,
way? Sorry.
sorry,
What grade was this, by the way?
middle school, so it's probably
Okay.
sixth, seventh grade. I think
All
it was
right.
seventh grade.
That's a little worried there.
And the kids were, rapt. And I thought at the time, why is this teacher wasting time reading aloud? I mean, these kids should be reading this for homework, and I was totally wrong. I think reading aloud has tremendous power, even after kids have learned to decode. I mean, it is a burden on what we call working memory, that aspect of our consciousness where we take in new information, try to make sense of it. If we not only just decoding, but like, where does the emphasis go in this sentence? How is this word pronounced? If you have an expert reader doing that work for you, then you are much better able to attend to the meaning and absorb the information and retain it. And if you're emotionally engaged, so like if it's a novel, my theory, well, there is evidence for this, that it's more likely to stick, that emotional connection makes the information more likely to stick. And I will mention this, these are small studies, but there are a couple of studies, I think only one has been published in England, that have gotten, I would say, really hard to believe results from just reading novels aloud to kids at a fairly rapid pace. So the first study, which was done with like 14-year-olds, the experiment was to just have teachers, it was basically teachers reading aloud. It's a little, trickier to have students read aloud because it's a
Yes.
burden on them. And also they may not do a great job, and, it makes them nervous, whatever. So these were teachers mostly reading aloud, two novels back to back, one classic and one contemporary. And the kids, first of all, often did not want the teacher to stop reading. They were very engaged in this. But after 12 weeks, so 3 months of doing this, they gave these kids a standardized reading test, not related to anything that they'd been listening to, standardized reading comprehension test. And they found that struggling readers, I mean, all the kids made a lot of progress, but the struggling readers made 16 months of progress after 3 months on a
Wow.
standardized reading test.
Wow.
And I would say, well, maybe that was a fluke, except it was tried again with younger students, elementary level students, and they got the same kinds of results, in some cases, way more
Mhm.
of an improvement. It's hard to explain, but that's my theory, is that when you're emotionally engaged, you're more likely to remember
Yeah.
the information, the vocabulary.
Well, I want to move to the next topic because I